Whilst I was pregnant with my second, my first one was diagnosed, and then shortly after that, my second child was diagnosed. I was told, keep them inside, don't expose them to too much, it would be too overwhelming. I did the opposite. We went on train rides, we tried surfing, we tried indoor skydiving, we tried everything. And I watched them engage or not engage, and I followed the things they engaged with.
Nowadays, I think that's a big paradigm shift. Current diagnosis basically allow more individuals to be identified. So it just widens the definition of autism to become a spectrum. So it's just neurologically different from other people, but it's a normal, natural variation from human experience.
The world isn't built for our kids, it isn't built for our loved ones who are autistic, but we can do our part to build that world.
Hello and welcome to Connected. I'm Divya Gopalan. I'd like to start today by introducing you to Freddie. He's very interested in space and geometric shapes and used to give his family daily moon phase reports. Now, in this case, using biscuits.
I am going to eat the...
Look, there's a crescent moon again.
There is a crescent moon.
Here, that's the first quarter moon again. There's a waxing gibbous moon. Let's see, on, and on.
Well, Freddie is now 15 years old and doesn't give moon updates anymore, not that I know of, but is just as engaging and engaged in other topics. Freddie's mother, Briana Blackett, is an international journalist, advocate, and carer, and she's joining us from Sydney, Australia. And later on, we will also be speaking to Dr. Yi-Ling Chien, a leading psychiatrist who started one of the first outpatient services for adults with autism in Taiwan. But first to Briana, great to have you on the program. Great to see your young son there. You do have also another son that you're a care and advocate for. What would you say are the biggest misconceptions about autism you've encountered as a carer or advocate?
Well, I can go back to my early days when I was first told that my children had autism, and I was told that their world would be quite limited as a result, that their capacity to do things and to learn would be limited, that our lives would be limited as a result. And I think that couldn't have been further from the truth. Our world was different as a result. I had to learn almost a whole new language and a whole new culture as a result, but it didn't limit our world in the way that I was told that it would. We get out, we enjoy things, we have a laugh. Yes, I'm not going to lie, things can be really hard for us, but by the same token, there's a lot of joy there as well.
Briana, you mentioned some of your journey, and before we go into the elements of caring, you and I worked years ago in the Middle East as broadcast journalists. You had a high-flying career. Can you talk us through your journey and how that's changed when your children came into your life?
Sure. When I first had my first son, I just thought I would be out of the workforce temporarily while I sort of nurtured him in those early days, and then I returned to work, had a second child. Whilst I was pregnant with my second, my first one was diagnosed, and then shortly after that, my second child was diagnosed. And from there, I started to retreat from the everyday life most people had, because I guess the demands on me to support my children in those early years were really large. So I sort of reduced my capacity at work and eventually left work altogether. And I moved countries, and everything in my life became focused on trying to get them the best possible opportunities, which was harder than I thought, actually. I really lost my identity, I'll be honest with you. I always, ever since I was a teenager, I've worked, I've been productive, I placed so much value on myself for what I contributed through my job. So to find myself not having a job, and then to find myself being a different kind of parent than I thought I would be, and also not being able to access the world like I used to. There are a lot of doors that were closed to me as a result. So I really did go through quite an identity crisis. And it was quite a lonely experience, I'll be honest with you, which is why I really want to talk about it now, because I want other people going through this same journey to understand that that's completely normal, but there's something that we can do about it. And there are people out there who will understand and connect with you. And you will find your new identity. Just might be an adjustment period.
Tell me about the people that can connect with you and the support services that are out there, and would you say they are adequate, especially now as you've seen the changes from when you first started a couple of decades ago?
It has changed so much in the last 15 years or so that I've been part of this community. There's a lot more of an understanding about the abilities of people with autism. There's a lot more understanding of the challenges. We have different understandings of why people may have issues around communicating, around regulating their bodies, around being in social environments. So there's just so much more out there now to help us understand it and help sort of scaffold or build bridges so that the people with autism in your life can have access to opportunities in a much better way, because we can help to overcome some of those challenges, or at least avoid them.
I'd like to give you a glimpse into a mother's journey here in Taiwan, where there's a variety of services for autistic people, including what's called early intervention. Now, it's designed to help toddlers develop communication and social interaction skills. But as many find out, it's a learning process for both the children and the parents alike.
我们去了3个月，也是觉得不行。对，那时候是团体治疗。月族优希的情绪反应最大，他非常的排斥，因为他要看到各式各样的孩子一直生气、一直哭，然后一直被绑住，然后他必须要一直遵守那些指令，不能自由。他觉得要有规矩，要训练，然后最后就是要他，你要跟我讲啊，我才要给你。我想哇，他如果有口语的话，他一定会跟你讲，但是他就没有，所以他其实就会有点生气，然后你就看到他生气就打头嘛。然后生气就会有点想要咬自己，所以这件事情真的是对我来讲是很大的致命伤。
尤其你不要吓一跳，我才吓一跳。你都不会阻止我，阻止我干嘛？
我如果比你厉害的话，我就会阻止你。那我又没有，
因为他可能之前有医疗的经验都不愉快。一去上那个个别课的时候，就会哭得让妈妈不知所措。虽然妈妈她很理智的可以接受老师对孩子的一些要求，但是她看到优希的那个崩溃啊、尖叫啊，为了要符合团体规范的时候，你看到妈妈那个脸哦，就知道她在心痛。像这样站起来的史努比要有脚哦。大部分自闭症没有沟通能力，不会讲话。然后行为能力也跟一般人不一样，就以为他们是什么都不会。但渐渐的医学的发达，然后演进了一些不同的教学策略，才发现其实他们很厉害。噔噔噔噔。
And that was Jiaqi and her daughter Yuuki, who's now 12 years old. You can watch the full version of this documentary on our YouTube channel and the TaiwanPlus website. Briana, early intervention often focuses on trying to shape the children into fitting into mainstream society. And given that the abilities and the challenges different children face is very different and very huge, how does this work?
Look, so much of Yuuki's story resonated with me. There are a lot of the intervention or early intervention services that were around when my children were little were very much focused on fitting those square pegs into round holes, and that's never going to work. So there's a lot more services, speech therapy or communications therapy, as you may call it now, occupational therapy, behavioural therapy, which really focuses on what we call neuro-affirming therapy. So basically accepting the challenges of the person and working with them, engaging with those, the way they like to communicate, and stop trying to force them to be someone else. And once we stop doing that, then the people can relax a lot more and they can engage with us a lot more, because we're not asking them to work extra hard to be something that they're not.
Now, as we saw there, aside from trying to develop Yuuki's verbal and social skills, the educator was also trying to focus on her talent for drawing. How did you recognize what your children could do or like to do?
Yeah, well, basically, I took a throw everything at it approach. I think a lot of parents expect their children naturally to be like them. And you couldn't have got children who are more different from me if you'd tried. I mean, I'm a communicator by trade. And here I was with two children who didn't know how to speak. One still can't speak through his vocal words at all, but we've taught him how to read and write. And the other one speaks lots of, usually scientific-y, mathy things that I don't understand because I'm a journalist, right? So what I did was just expose them to everything I could, which went against the instruction of the day, right? I thought, well, I was told, keep them inside, don't expose them to too much, it would be too overwhelming. I did the opposite. We went on train rides, we went to art classes, we went to music events, we went to the beach, we tried surfing, we tried indoor skydiving, we tried everything. And I watched them engage or not engage, and I followed the things they engaged with. So my eldest son absolutely loves being in the kitchen. I'm terrible at it, but whenever I'd go in there to cook, our daily meals, he would be right next to me, wanting to have a go, touching things, holding things. So I thought, fine, I'll start teaching him how to peel a potato or chop carrots or what have you. And through that, and his absolute interest in that, we started to learn how to read a recipe, write a recipe, measure things, weigh things. We worked on time, how long do we have to, let this sit for or cook for. So we used that love of cooking to really engage him on learning other things, follow their interests. And if you've engaged them with their interests, that's when other learning can come into it.
Right, your oldest son, Max, I believe?
Yes.
I remember when he was born, actually. Well, he must be coming to 20 years old.
He's almost 18 now, almost
Oh,
18.
18.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's coming into adulthood. How are you preparing him for life as an adult?
Yes, wow. I'm still in the process of figuring that out, but we are talking about possible employment options for him. Look, a job for him is not going to look like what a job for me looks like. But then again, the job I did, like what you do, Divya, this crazy world of journalism is not what other people's jobs look like either. So I'm okay with that. I'm just looking for something that might involve, cooking or working in the kitchen or working with nature, his favorite places to be. So I'm trying to build pathways and work with organizations and training organizations to find ways to teach him the basics of being in a commercial kitchen or a restaurant. He loves going into those spaces, so it's a matter of building those networks so that he can try it, see how it goes, and hopefully lead to some kind of career. Even if it's a few hours a day, it would bring such joy to him and such value and meaning into his life as being someone who can contribute to the world.
So you're charting a path with Max, and Freddie is now 15 years old. Would Max's experience or your experience with Max be a blueprint for Freddie?
Yeah, 100%. So they're very different children, but the process is the same. What do they love? Expose them to it. Expose them to it in a work setting. See if they like it, and then see how you can scaffold entries into these organizations and businesses so that they can be supported, the organization can be supported so that it's a success, and hopefully something sticks. But a lot of people do different jobs in their lives, so I'm open to doing lots of changing until we find the right thing. So I think the process is having a go and connecting with people and asking. I'm so surprised by how many people, say, somebody runs a restaurant locally and heard about us. And I said, would you be interested in Max coming and learning how to work in your restaurant? And they said, yeah, by all means, come along. So it's amazing what people will do if you just ask and then provide that support so that it can be a success.
I want to continue on that train of thought, but before we do that, I want to hear from Dr. Yi-Ling Chien, who is a leading psychiatrist and started one of the first outpatient services for adults with autism in Taiwan. So I'm going to start with this. From a clinical perspective, how has our understanding of autism evolved, especially recently?
Autism is a diagnosis starting from 80 years ago. So at that time, people think that autism is a very rare and severe disorder. But nowadays, I think that's a big paradigm shift. So currently, we see autism as a neurodevelopmental condition. So it's just neurologically different from other people, but it's a normal, natural variation from human experience. So we currently think it's a neurodiversity population. So it's not a disorder anymore now.
Right, and actually in many parts of the world, using the word disorder is seen as not like as incorrect, or people push back against it. So can you talk to us about how parents here try and get information or navigate getting information and support in Taiwan, and is there enough resources for them?
I think the resources right now is much better than maybe decades before, but still limited. I think the funding is not, it is basically insufficient, particularly for many NGO. But most resources is now in the hospitals. So in every big hospital, say like medical centers or local hospitals that have early intervention programs, usually will provide such kind of training for young kids with autism, training them to have social interaction and communication.
Speaking of which, that training, is it a one-size-fits-all? Meaning, is it the same training for everyone, or is there actual kind of variation, or do they tailor it according to the child at the moment?
That's a very important question. I think most services are designed to be one-fit-all, because that makes service much more economic. So, but you know, professional personnel is limited. So I think there's a better way doing the services in the group settings. But as you have mentioned, people with autism are quite different from each others. There's an old saying, when you met a person with autism, you have just met one person with autism. So every autistic child is quite different from each other. So each kid has their own needs and strengths. So I think although all training are basically in a group settings, but therapists will try to provide some individual support for different kids, but just try their best to do that.
I want to look at the bigger picture here and bring in some numbers. Now, autism diagnosis is increasing both in Taiwan and around the world. Over the past 4 years, the autistic population in Taiwan has risen, with what's classified as mild cases making up about 75%. The fact that we're seeing this a rise in autism cases both in Taiwan and around the world, what is behind this rise? Is it about awareness, or is there more to it than that?
Mm-hmm. I think there are several factors may explain such kind of rising prevalence. As you have mentioned, one of the most important factors is public awareness. So more and more people of the society knowing about autism. So the school teacher will refer their students for assessment, and girls will bring their boyfriends to the clinic to assess for their autistic traits. Wife will bring their husband for the assessment of autism. So I think the milder autism is contribute to the prevalence rise. But the most hardcore, I mean the most severe type of autism, maybe just keep the same prevalence. Mm-hmm. And the second issue, I think, is because of the change of diagnostic criteria of autism. The current diagnosis basically allow more individuals to be identified. So it just widen the definition of autism to become a spectrum. So more people with social problems, they will come for the assessment. There are also some other factors such as environmental changes like older parental ages or maternal, like obesity or gestational hypertension. So several factors maybe related to lifestyles in the current days also contribute to the increase of autism.
You know, I find it so interesting when you mention that girls or young ladies would bring their boyfriends or wives would bring their husbands, because in Taiwan, 85% of the total diagnosis is males. And apparently it's not just in Taiwan. Apparently, globally, males are 4 times more likely than females to be diagnosed as ASD. Why do you think that is?
Actually, evidence has shown that autism manifests differently in males and in females. Girls with autism are more likely to have social difficulties that is less noticeable. So that may lead to underdiagnosis in females. There are also some interesting theory to explain this prominent male to female ratio, so-called female protection theory. That means with the same genetic loading, usually the female will have milder presentation of autism than males.
That's so interesting. Now, one of the other things you've done is introduce the peer social skills training system. And I think that's for helping the ones with milder autistic individuals. Can you explain that and how that then fits into the peers training that you pulled together?
The peers program is developed at UCLA by Professor Elizabeth Logson. She's the founder of Peers Social Training Program. And this program is nowadays the most effective social training program for adults or adolescents with autism. So it just breaks down the complicated social skills into small steps, like SOP, so that everyone can learn how to chat with others, how to continue their talk, and how to deal with bully or some other interpersonal conflicts. So in my hospital, we have run this program for 80 years. I think we have served maybe more than 200 families in Taiwan.
So before we move on, I would like you to watch this excerpt from our accompanying documentary. Now, this is the experience of a mother and son at the Linkou District Co-Living Project, which helps socially integrate autistic adults.
不知道为什么那一阵子他那么生气，他也不知道怎么表达，所以他一表达就是推你。那时候就受伤，就骨折了，对。他自己也很紧张，处在那个很焦虑、很紧张的状态之下，他就会坐在门口，因为我们就很害怕，躲在房间里面啊，把他关在外面啊，自己就坐在门口，他会说对不起这样。到了后来，爸爸生病，然后我也越来越老了嘛，哈，没有办法再处理、再应付，或者是 hold 得住他的这些行为，所以我们就一直探听说到底有哪一个机构可以接受他，对，好，那时候就是没办法，就他要住机构。
我想，身为一个家长啦，哈，自闭症者的家长，其实最担心的终极，当然就是我们走了之后，他们何去何从。但是在往前推，其实他们从18岁成人之后，可能高比例的孩子根本就没有办法继续升学嘛。那他没有办法继续升学的话，就要安置。可是安置也是容易被拒绝，然后职场又失利，可以就业的孩子呢，大概1%。我想不到2，
因为我们当然知道轻度的青年他可以住在社区，可是如果是中重度的这些青年，难道他们就没有权利享有一个可以由他自己自由意识所支配的生活吗？
来，恭喜恭喜，大吉大利！
嗨，好啦。星儿的话，我觉得最主要。说实在，硬体环境还是一个面向。那最主要是像家园里面大家共融在一起，营造出来的一种氛围，带给家长 先能够放松嘛，然后慢慢孩子也可以感受到这些气氛，然后感受到大家相处在一起的那种，可以像一般人在享受一些群体生活的那种样貌。那小孩子的安全感也增加。
如果那些情绪行为的问题可以减少，也许我们可以慢慢减少在机构的时间，在这里的时间比较长。所以我在做这样的一个调配，这样。
Well, you can watch the full documentary featuring Yuuki's and Sonting's family on our YouTube channel and on our website. Now, this example we showed you is just one of many possibilities there are of integrating autistic individuals and giving them a sense of independence. But when it comes to Taiwan, how much is being done in terms of social integration?
I think we're just in the beginning. We are trying to find a way for these autistic people to be included in the society. I think this still a challenges for most autistic population, especially for those in strong need. So like the young man in the film, I think he does not only have autism diagnosis, he also had intellectual disability that will quite limit his ability to be trained as a worker, like occupational training workshop. So for individuals that have this kind of situation, I think the government needs to think more about how to help the families can receive enough support to be supported in their future life.
Is there any moves for that in Taiwan, especially with people with autism who can work, who can have jobs, but perhaps are not as socially integrated?
Okay. Some of my clients, they do apply for a job like a technology company, and some company, they will recognize their ability in attention to details. So they have good intuition to debug when they are doing coding, but not everyone can code or can have such kind of good function. So for those with lower function capacity, I think a better like shelter working may help them to do more simpler jobs and train them during their work. So the role of occupational coach is quite important in this level of autistic individuals. Mm-hmm.
Is there still stigma here when it comes to talking about your children who may be autistic or family members? Does that still exist in Taiwan?
Yeah, I think so, especially in maybe the rural area of Taiwan. But in Taipei, because it's a capital city here in Taiwan, I think many many parents, they prefer to have the resources of the diagnosis. So that help them to deal with the stigmatization. But for many parents, I can still feel that their inner fear of disclose their child's condition.
Now, we spoke about increased awareness, but aside from that, the language surrounding autism is also evolving. For instance, the word neurodiversity and neurodiverse is used so much more now. And there seems not only in daily life, but also in the media. So it seems people are becoming more familiar with it. How is that influencing or even informing the work that you do?
Okay. In Taiwan, I think we are still on the way to neurodiversity dream, I would say, because younger generation may have better idea of what is neurodiversity, but older generation, many of parents, they still refuse this diagnosis. They will think that their kid is just too too lazy to go out for work. So I think we are now just in the stage of integration, between generations, different concepts between generations. How is it influence my job? I would say that in my clients, I would try to understand how they interact with surrounding peoples. Some clients told me that their company actually know their condition and still are willing to support them, but some are not so lucky. They are fired and finding another jobs, and jobs just change one from another. So different people of autism just face different challenges currently. But I think over the 10 years, more and more company, they are now trying to learn about autism.
Right. Given the breadth of your work and the kind of research that you have done, if you have one message to our viewers about people who are autistic or individuals who are autistic, what is the message that we need to know and understand?
I think every autistic people, they are really want to make friends and want to integrate into the society. So let's just give them a chance and trying to know them better. And they really want to be treated as a normal person. So I really expect that autism-friendly society, autism have many talents that other non-autistic people do not have. So if we can just learn from each other, that will be a beautiful way to make everyone happier.
And with that, I can't add anything else to it. No, that's beautiful. That's lovely. Thank you so much, Dr. Chien. That was Dr. Yi-Ling Chien, a psychiatrist who started the first outpatient service for adults with autism in Taiwan. And back to you, Briana. Before we go, every parent or carer's journey is different, but if you had one final message to them as a takeaway from your personal experience, what would it be?
I would say believe in your child, believe in your own capacity as a parent. Don't listen to negative things, but do understand it might be hard so you can see it through. And I think use your imagination. Imagine the world that you would want for yourself. Imagine the world you would want for your child. You may have to build that world yourself, but I think that there could be a future filled with possibility and joy. It will be harder because the world isn't built for our kids. It isn't built for our loved ones who are autistic, but we can do our part to build that world. And I think if you can just stay strong and believe that things can be achieved, then that will take you miles.
Great message for everyone. Briana Blackett, an international journalist, advocate, and carer, speaking to us from Sydney, Australia. Thank you so much for being part of the program. And for our viewers everywhere, we would love to hear what your takeaway is from today's episode and how you think we can make the workplace and our communities more inclusive for autistic people. Do share your thoughts in the comments section on our YouTube channel. It's been good to have your company. Until the next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay connected.